I'm excited to talk about how to detoxify your home because I think that there's such a focus on how we eat, what we put into our bodies, but it really needs to extend to our homes in order to create a non-toxic life for us, because a lot of
Definitely.
those toxins come from our environment that we're creating ourselves. So I'm excited to be talking about that with you today. For those of you who don't know me, I'm Dr. Rachel Eva Dew. I go by Dr. Rachel. And I am a doctor of natural medicine, and my focus is really helping people to create the best life possible in mind, body, heart, and spirit. So I'm, again, excited to be talking with you today, Courtney. Courtney is an amazing interior designer, and I'll let you introduce yourself.
Hello, everyone. Yeah, so like Dr. Rachel said, my name is Courtney Schrank. I'm an interior designer and I like to say lifestyle consultant for working women who work for someone else typically, and I help them to maintain their sanity and their well-being in all aspects of their life. So, home, health and wellness, fashion, all kinds of things. So I'm kind of a one-stop shop support system.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Well, I will put up a blog after this that has some links to some of the products that we're going to talk about today. And first and foremost, I want to say that none of the products I'm going to be talking about are things that I get paid to talk about. These are things that I use myself. And as we talked about, Courtney, before, one of the things that frustrates me about creating a healthy and well lifestyle and home environment is that some of these items that we need are so expensive. And it makes it really cost prohibitive for a lot of people to take good care of themselves. So we're
Yeah.
going to talk about products that we love that, cost money. And then we're also going to talk about free options or low cost options that are things that people can do at home on their own. That way, if
Yeah.
cost is an issue, you can still take good care of yourself and your life and your home. So where did you want to jump in? Do you want to talk about, let's talk about air quality. How about
Okay.
we start there?
Yeah.
Because as we're breathing in, we're absorbing any of the toxins in our environment. I know you and I had previously talked about fun things like mold and, dust and dander. And
Yeah.
um, uh, it's so easy for those things to get inside of our home, and also inside of the air that we're breathing. But there are some amazing air filter systems, and like I love Dyson, I love Air Doctor, but those are pretty expensive. So I'm going to put up links to those, but I wanted to talk about some really inexpensive ways that people can clean their air and detox. And I know you and I had talked about essential oils, and we'll talk about some of our favorites there. But simple things that we also talked about, what I would love to start with, because I'm a huge fan of them, is plants.
Yes. Yeah, I have a whole, I put out a whole blog post. And then, so in your post that you're going to put up, I can, we can throw links to some of the articles that I have too. So everyone has just one place to go. But yeah, plants are, I feel like they're kind of underrated. I feel like everyone's like, oh yeah, plants add some greenery to your home. But there's so many, NASA did a study. There's so many studies about how not only do plants increase your air quality and take out the formaldehyde and all of the other chemicals and toxins, but they also make you more productive and they reduce anxiety. And obviously there's some you have to be careful of if you have pets, or if you have kids in the house. But, there are some, now that everyone's working from home, it's not as big of a deal. I had, a huge list of plants that are great for offices that don't need a ton of natural light or maintenance. But I feel like now, is the time to get your plants and love them because you're home all the time. So
My personal favorite for cleaning air, and it's also it's one of my favorites for cleaning the air, increasing air quality. But it also is one of those plants that's hard to kill. And as much as I love plants, and you can see I have a plant behind me, and
mm,
if you were in my home, you would see I have hundreds of plants. My poor husband is like, stop with the plants already. But one of my favorites is the snake plant, right?
I was just gonna, that's my favorite too.
I have a snake plant right next to my bed. I have one in my living room and one in my office, my home office. And one of the reasons that I love it is because, in addition to cleaning the air quality and just looking really beautiful, they're hard to kill.
They are.
And they produce little offspring, right? So if you start with one one snake plant, then as it grows, you can take the little baby that it sprouts and you can repot that somewhere else. So it ends up giving you 3 or 4 plants that you can.
That's actually how I got mine. I got one from my mother who gave me one that she had, who I think actually, to be honest, got hers from my grandpa. So it, just keeps moving right on through. But yeah, no, they're really great. They're super durable and they hold up really well. And I know they remove a ton of toxins. I know, a number of palms are also really good. Spider plants are good. And if you do have plants that may not be great around kids or pets, you can always put them in either like a hanging planter or, something, because there are some, the pothos plant is really, really great for moving toxins, and it doesn't take much maintenance, but it's not great for pets. So that's one that you might want to put up on like a shelf or something. But yeah, I have like a huge article where I list out all of the ones that are great for like the bathroom, ones that are great for your bedroom. Things like lavender and like peace lily and things are really great. And then I also have I have links to the ASPCA website where it has, ones that shouldn't be around pets and things like that. So, yeah, plants are fantastic.
Yeah. So that's
a natural air purifier.
There you go. Exactly. So, and being a natural doctor, I really like to find things that we can, solutions that we can get out of lifestyle changes and out of things from nature so that we're not, spending radical amounts of money in order to have a clean environment. So that's awesome. I love the plants. And then here's a really simple one. And this is something that I will see people go out and spend $1,000 on some really amazing air purifier. And then they rarely dust, deep clean, or open their windows.
Right.
Even if you are spending a lot of money and getting one of these amazing air purifiers, air filtration systems for your home, it's really important that at least once a week, I like to do mine actually every few days, like every 3 days. I'll open up all of the windows in my house and just really get that air circulating, that fresh air circulating. So that's really important. And then doing that dusting and deep cleaning is huge, because if you go, here's a good place to check. Go to your kitchen, go to your refrigerator. If you're me, you have to get on a stepladder to do this. I'm like 5 feet tall, but get up there on top of the refrigerator and swish your fingers around and pull it down and see if you have a bunch of dust on your fingers, because those particles, even though they're on top of bookcases or on top of ceiling fans, on top of like tall appliances where you don't see them, you're still getting those toxins. You're still breathing in those particles, even though they're resting up there. So for lung capacity and cardiovascular health, it's really important to keep a deep cleaned house and to dust. And most people will dust every, once a month they'll do a deep cleaning. I totally get it. We're all busy, but it's something that I highly recommend that you do as far as dusting on a weekly basis.
Yeah. Well, now is the perfect time to get into that habit, because everyone's home. So I feel like now is a great time to start all kinds of habits because you have the time, to dedicate to them. And I know I have a few favorites, but what are your favorite cleaning products in terms of, non-toxic?
Yes. Okay. So again, everything in life is really about balance.
Mm-hmm.
So if you don't have the time to do something in the most healthful way, mm-hmm. and you force yourself into it and it creates stress and other imbalances in your life, stress has a huge negative impact on our entire body, our entire immune system. So let's, first of all, before we dive into this too much, let's let everybody know that you got to find what's balanced for you, cost-wise, time-wise, energy-wise. All right, that being said, my favorite cleaning products are the ones I make myself. I do DIY, and I do that maybe once every 6 weeks. I'll just sit down, put on some music, and sit at my dining room table and kind of have a DIY
chemistry session.
Yeah, right. Skincare and cleaning products, and it's super easy. I'll throw up some links to some great recipes, but it's very affordable. It's the
Yeah.
most affordable, that thing that you can do. B, then you're sure what you're getting in your product,
Well,
100%
right, you know what's
sure.
in it.
Right.
Mhm.
Yeah. But as far as if you don't have time for that, seventh generation, Myers, I love those cleaning products. Whole Foods carries a bunch. You can get some non-toxic cleaning products on Amazon, but
Mhm.
really important that you are using non-toxic cleaning supplies, because again,
Mhm.
as you're cleaning, you're breathing in those toxins. You want to make sure that what you're cleaning with isn't causing you more problems.
Personally, I use Branch Basics, and then I do have some Thieves products as well. And I would like to do, I mean, I've tried a little bit in the DIY, but I just feel like there's so many options out there that I never quite know, like what, is this actually going to clean?
So with home cleaning, I personally don't use any bleach or any heavy toxins in any of my cleaning products that I make. And
Mhm.
here's a really, really simple one, because you're saying that there's so many different options, and it's, it's hard to know. You can take pure vodka, put in
Mhm.
a few drops of lavender essential oil, squeeze in half a lemon, shake it up, and there you go. Right. So it doesn't have to be complicated. You don't have to feel overwhelmed. You don't even have to follow a recipe exactly. You can, give it a try, give it a go, see what you like scent wise, and test and see what works best as far as, the percentage of which that you put in. I typically will do a heavier on the vodka on that one, and then just, about 15 to 20 drops of lavender essential oil, and then I squeeze in half a lemon. So that's one that's very, very simple. But again, I'll post a bunch of links to recipes and things like that.
Yeah.
When it comes to the products that we use at home that are adding to the toxicity, not only are cleaning products a big one, but let's talk about the kitchen for a second, because so many of us are storing our water in plastic containers,
Mhm.
even if plastic containers are BPA free.
Yeah,
That
because I know
doesn't,
that was always the thing. They're like, if it's BPA free, you're perfect, you're fine.
yeah, not true.
Yeah.
Because all forms of plastic do have carcinogens in them. So yes, while BPA is one of the significant ones, I always recommend that you filter your water and then store water in glass containers. And so what I carry around and drink with me throughout the day is glass, and then the big, 1 and 2 gallon jugs that I put the water in is also made of glass. So ditching plastic anywhere that you can, storing food in glass containers versus plastic or BPA plastic free containers, cookware, getting rid of, all of your cooking utensils, things like spatulas and all of that. Silicone, not a fan. Let's ditch the silicone. I don't feel that that is a better option. What I love is wood. Wood, non-toxic, not chemically treated bamboo
Mhm.
is amazing. It's super inexpensive. You can find some on Amazon for $5 and $10. So again, very cost effective.
Yeah, and something like that won't scratch, because I know that's what people will say, like when you go to all metal or whatever. But yeah, that's nice because the bamboo won't scratch your pans or anything like that.
Yeah. And speaking of pans, this is another one that, just like air purifiers, can be super expensive. So first of all, approaching your detox of your kitchen in a balanced way is incredibly helpful. So don't think that you have to replace everything right now. You're going to throw everything away and go out and spend, $500 on new pots and pans. I like to just try to put a budget aside of replacing one pot or one pan every month, right? And again, you can find cost effective options. I'm going to post some of my favorites. But we want to get rid of the Teflon.
Mhm.
Okay. All of those non-stick, unless it's ceramic and non-Teflon non-stick coating, are pretty toxic to our system. And it gets into the food that we eat. And it's, definitely has been linked to cancer and a number of other, things that we don't want to experience in our bodies. So ditching the Teflon, replacing it. You can do stainless steel, ceramic, and even cast iron. People worry about cast iron as far as the heavy metals. So the cast iron that you actually get into, the iron that you're getting into your food is a very, very small amount, and it's actually not at a toxic level. So that's something just to know. But
yeah, that's a good
there are
tip.
other things, with heavy metals. I think it's important that we do heavy metal cleanses, once a year to just like flush our system, or once every 6 months, and eat plenty of cilantro, because fresh cilantro helps your body to process and get that out of the system as well. We can't avoid heavy metals 100%. We can't avoid plastic 100%. A large amount of the food that we buy from the grocery store comes in plastic. So, you want to try to not put your foods into plastic, and purchase foods like getting your meats behind the meat counter if you can, versus buying them in the plastic. I use an amazing farm delivery service that sends me all of my produce in a box. It shows up once a week. They're called Farm Fresh. So if you're in California, Farm Fresh to you is an amazing resource. But a lot of states have CSAs and farmers markets and things like that, where your foods are not prepackaged in plastic. So that's another great option. And also a farmers market or a CSA tends to be significantly less expensive than organic produce from Whole Foods, for example. So again, just ditching the plastic, up leveling your pots and pans, switching, storage into glass containers. And then, the other thing that I do as well is, if anything does come in packaging, even in paper boxes with, wax coating and things, I try to remove them right away and put them into glass containers. And you don't have to go out and spend a ton of money on this. I mean, I saved a glass jar that I had from sauerkraut. I washed it out, and now I'm storing rice in it, right? So you can use things that you already have access to, and upcycle them in your home, instead of going out and buying lots of fancy schmancy stuff, right?
Definitely. Yeah. And just real quick, I know you had mentioned like water filters. Is there like because I feel like there's like really, really expensive ones, and then there's some that are like $300 or $400, and then like those seem to be the only two options, that are out there.
Yep. And this is where it kind of goes back into all things in balance, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, I have a couple that I really like. They're, amazing quality. And yes, they're more in that expensive range. And then you have some that fall into the 200 range. I'll put up some links to my favorites of those more, expensive options. But I want to talk right now about very inexpensive options. All right. Because I think we need that. We need that access and that balance. So if you are on a very tight budget, this is what I would recommend doing. Get yourself a Brita water filtration. They come in pitchers. You can get the, 2-gallon one, or you can get the pitcher one, somewhere between $19 and like $34. And go ahead and filter your water, and immediately take it out of that and put it into a glass storage container. So that gives you the ability to filter for the heavy metals and the chlorine, things like that, and then immediately store it into glass. Is it the absolute most ideal? No, but really the absolute most ideal are systems that are, really commercial grade. They're $2,000, reverse osmosis, alkalining, and that's just not accessible to most people. So that's why I wanted to talk about the least expensive option.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, that's great. Yeah. Because people are always, asking. I personally also am, looking into ways to, I know we had talked about, mold detox and stuff, and ways you can kind of make smarter choices. And I feel like the reason a lot of people haven't transitioned into these different options is because they just see it as such a cost, and they're like, well, I couldn't possibly afford that, so I'll just continue on the way I am, when really it is better to make a little bit of a change than no change at all.
Yes. Yeah. And that brings me to kind of that same thing about water filtration on our skin, because we can be, drinking really good quality, clean water without the toxins in it. But if we are putting chemical, heavy metals onto our skin is our largest microbiome. right? So we think about the microbiome, we think about gut health, but the skin is actually the largest microbiome. And we absorb so many toxins in through the skin. So I'm a huge fan of having a shower filter. And, this is one of those things where something less expensive is better than nothing at all. So I'll put up some options that have kind of a range, but definitely be using some kind of a water filter on your shower. And also, if you're a bath taker like I am, I love my medicinal baths and it's part of my self-care practice. Make sure that you have a filter for that, that spout as well. And then the other thing too is dry brushing. Dry brushing, every 3-4 days or at least once a week before you take a shower to get those stuck toxins, that might be in the microbiome out of your body. That and an Ayurvedic self-massage technique called Abhyanga. And there's some great videos on YouTube, even free tutorials as to how to do Abhyanga. And it really acts as like a lymphatic massage, self-massage technique, and helps to stimulate blood flow and to get all of the toxins that might be stored in your lymph nodes, circulating and moving through. So those are two things that, I find are really helpful to detoxing the skin. But we could talk about skincare and, detoxing all of that for quite some time.
Yeah.
But I would love to hear some of your ideas about furniture and things like bedding and other toxins that paint, for example, that people may not even be aware of the harm that it's causing them.
Yes, I feel like, a number of years ago, the whole, low VOC, volatile organic compounds, that whole thing kind of came out and people became a little bit more aware of what was in paint, because before obviously everything was lead based and, you move into an older home, you have to remove all of that properly and everything. So I feel like people are a little bit more aware when it comes to paint, but a lot of paints still will have extra, chemicals and things in there, or they'll have off gassing, or, if you're pregnant, you shouldn't even be in the house when they're painting and things like that. So I do have a couple favorite brands. Claire Paint is one of my favorites, and another one is ECOS, and they do all kinds of testing on making sure there's no unnecessary chemicals and there's no off gassing once it's painted in your house. I mean, you should still have the windows open, but if you didn't, you wouldn't like drop to the ground. And the nice thing about both of those is that I just checked last night too. They'll deliver paint to your door. So they are a really great resource now if you're looking to have a little, home project while you're stuck at home. They'll deliver the paint right to your door. And if I'm not mistaken, I want to say their packaging is also like biodegradable. I'll have to confirm that, but I know it's all like cardboard, so it can be recycled. But those are two of my favorites for paint, and we can throw up links to all of this when you do the post. And then sheets and bedding and mattresses, I feel like are like one of the last things people think about when it comes to like organic. I like did a number of, looked through a number of articles of research, and we spend like nearly 30 years of our life like in our bed, right? And it's something you lay on every day. Your face is on it and your skin is on it, and people don't think that should be organic or chemical free. And you can't tell me that when you're laying on these sheets that have been bathed in whatever kinds of chemicals, that it's not seeping into your skin. So there's a couple of mattresses. Naturopedic is a really great mattress company, and then Avocado is a good one too. And there's a few, like I said, I'll link my blog post. I have kind of a range of prices. There are some companies that will have like, dozens of mattress options, and then there's a couple, I think Hapsy is one. They literally just have one mattress, and they're able to get it, in the couple $100 range because they only have the one and they put all their resources into the one, so that's a really good option. And a lot of them will deliver right to your door as well. A lot of these companies also have like their own lines of sheets and linens and things. But, when you're looking for, the materials, you want to make sure that they're, Green Guard certified, Ocotex certified, and then GOTS and GOLS, which I know but is just making sure that they are able to trace the, plants and the fibers right from basically the ground to when they get into your, fabrics and materials, and they're not treated with chemicals. There's no off gassing. And a lot of these certifications too make it so that they're only sourcing from farms that, the farmers and everyone are treated appropriately, and everything basically, is a safe process from, seed all the way to, getting to you. And I'll include a couple. I like Koyuchi and Boll and Branch. And I say I would maybe like, I think I have probably about 10 different ones that I added that are in a variety of price ranges, because that's another thing. People think, oh, certified organic sheets, they're going to be so expensive. But I mean, you can even find organic sheets at like Target. So, if you're really wanting to, make sure you stay in a budget, there are still many budget friendly options out there. And then for pillows are a big one that, if anything has latex or rubber or anything like that, I mean, it's just so terrible. So, there's a number of options out there, and they all have their, downsides too. If something has, was it like, I want to say like buckwheat is an option to have as a pillow filler. And, some of the downsides are like, after you use it for a couple months, it might kind of get a little flat. And, so you have to weigh your options and see what, works best for you, obviously. But yeah, so that's kind of the sheets, bedding, mattress situation. And then there's a couple of,
can I jump in about
yeah,
that
please
too?
do.
I love that you kind of have the same mindset that I do about sharing with people resources that are arranged in different prices. And, a mattress in the $200 range is incredibly affordable. But even so, that might be not possible for someone right now who has, maybe they, 2 years ago, they bought a mattress and they just can't afford to replace it right now. And they're just realizing, oh, this is toxic. This is affecting my health. What can we do if someone doesn't have any budget or very, very minimal budget?
I came across, and I don't remember which vendor it was when I was doing all my research on this, and I'll track it down, but a really inexpensive like mattress cover that is organic too. And it was, maybe like $40 or something, if I remember right. And so, yeah, you could put that on, kind of the equivalent to like, blankets or anything like that. And then, yeah, doing your sheets, even getting like a blanket to go on top of you that is, organic. And like I said, West Elm actually has quite a few, just in the linens department of organic, or, now are they as, good as some of these other companies? Probably not, but like, like we said, make the changes you can make. So, and just kind of being more aware, like moving forward. So, looking maybe in the next year to be buying a mattress, start researching, start seeing, what is going to be in your budget or what you're going to want to spend, and then start putting that money away. And then, I also like to, make like an organic like linen spray and stuff too, to spray like on my sheets and stuff. And I always do, lavender is my favorite essential oil of all time. So I'll always put that in there. And I think just making little changes. But yeah, if you can't afford a whole new mattress, I think, laying something on top of it just so that doesn't kind of, leak through the sheets that you're getting that you're trying to, make them better for you. I think is probably one of the only, things you can really do without getting a whole new mattress, but every little bit helps for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, well, what about furniture? Because a lot of this, IKEA furniture or these big, chain manufacturing companies are using incredibly toxic materials, and the glues inside of, the furniture are highly toxic. So I'd love to hear your take on that, and some recommendations, because again, you can't always just completely throw out every piece of furniture you have and then, go out and buy new. One of the things that I definitely talk about is to begin replacing things again, one at a time, up leveling, so maybe every few months or once a year, even, you're replacing a major item with a more non-toxic option. But the other thing is, if you're on a serious budget, what I recommend is go to garage sales and buy older vintage furniture before they started, highly treating wood
Mm-hmm.
and paints with chemicals. So that's an option that I recommend. But I'd love to hear your thoughts on um, decorating and furniture that, is non-toxic, and being able to also detox your house from the toxic options or furniture items that you have in it.
Yeah. No, I love that idea. I love going to flea markets and garage sales and stuff. And as long as something is made from like real wood. Yeah, so basically when you're looking for vintage furniture, which I love to do, is just make sure that it's real wood, which you can usually tell if something's real wood and not like a particle board or a veneer or something. Because if it's real wood, you know that there's enough wood surface to sand down. So even if something has, like nicks or scratches or something, you can sand that down and paint it and restain it. So, and another company, which they're not currently delivering now, but the Real Milk Paint Company, I think is what they're called. And, and milk paint is great for furniture. It gives kind of like that, uh, it's kind of it gives almost like a softer feel to it. Like the paint almost has like a kind of like a suede sort of effect, but it's super durable. It's really forgiving for people who aren't used to, you know, painting furniture. But they're currently, I know they've suspended their services currently just because of all of this, but they'll obviously get, they'll get back out there. And then in terms of furnishings, a couple of my favorite vendors, I like the company InMod. So they like certify all of their furniture to not have chemicals and things like that. And then Medley also, they do sofas and upholstery items. And then the futon shop also, they don't just have futons. And I know you had someone that you had worked with, I think it was HB Artisan, that, upcycles. And if you are near, I mean, one of the biggest things you can do is just buy from small shops, because a lot of them are not using, even if they don't promote themselves as being non-toxic or green, most of them are not using, these crazy chemicals and glues and formaldehydes and things. So, and especially if you go to a smaller shop, I mean, sometimes it might be more expensive, but not all the time. And if you're near any like the Amish furniture too. Again, it could get expensive, but if you're going to the right places, they don't ever use any kind of chemicals and things like that. So, I mean, it is difficult just because, companies are trying to get things done as effectively and as efficiently as possible. And a lot of times they just, will use a lot of chemicals and materials that just aren't really great. And people might not think that it's off gassing or whatever, but you better believe you bring that into your home, the chemicals are for sure. So it's everything from like the wood to the fabric and the fill of the cushions.
Mhm.
Another one of my favorite things is to do like there are a lot of companies that will source products that are made from um, like in other countries, but they're made by like small tribes of artisans or something like that. And that doesn't always translate to more expensive, but if something's made of teak or if something's made of, and it will usually say if it's, like unfinished or doesn't have any, chemicals applied and things like that. Those are, I mean, especially if you're buying from not one of the big box stores, you can usually call these people and ask, like, what are your processes? Like, how do you treat your furniture? And so, yeah, I really like buying from usually smaller places and then, natural materials and things, which, I mean, it's kind of hard when you get into fabrics because, you know, it'd be great if we could all put 100% cotton and linen on our furniture, but that wouldn't hold up for anything, because it just doesn't. I mean, cotton wrinkles, and so does linen, and they stain. And so, um, I do have, I do have an article that talks through like the different fabrics and like their positives and negatives and stuff. But again, you just need to see what you can do for you. I mean, West Elm has a whole. I was just working in a nursery with someone, and they have a whole line of furnishings and linens and things that are organic and they're Green Guard certified and all of that. So I'll put together like a list of places that you can, kind of check out, but it is one of the harder things, I would say, to switch to organic just because there are not as many companies out there doing it, which usually means that it's going to be more expensive to get something.
Yeah, I think it takes creativity. It's
Mhm,
easy to just kind of go with the norm and
mhm,
be exposed to chemicals, right? I always say that to be truly well in all aspects of self, mind, body, heart, and spirit, it's important to be very intentional, and you have to get creative, right?
mhm.
It's easy to have an unintentional life. It's easy to have an unintentional home environment filled with toxic things. So, one of the creative things that I did is a few years ago, I really wanted to get one of those kind of magnolia market style, big picnic type tables, dining room
Mhm,
tables for the backyard. And everywhere that I looked, they were, $2,000, $3,000, and there were no non toxic options. So I actually went on Craigslist and I found
mhm,
just a woodworker who was making furniture, and I sent a photo to them, and
mhm,
I think that they charged me like $485 plus delivery. They made it
mhm,
from scratch. They didn't finish it at all. And,
mhm.
because that was my request. So there was the table and the two benches, and it was, very, very inexpensive. And that was, a creative option that I came up with. So I think it does take intentionality, it does take creativity, but
Yeah.
it is possible on any budget.
Yeah, no, definitely. I've done a similar thing through Etsy. I found someone who I think he made furniture out of like recycled materials. And so and again, like yeah, as long as you know where it's coming from, usually you can kind of guarantee to some regard what, chemicals and things are being or not being applied to it. So I try to have even like workrooms, like personally for just my business, that, whether they're metal workers or woodworkers or whatever, where I can go to them and say, like, this is what I want you, to do for me. And I don't want, like you said, I don't want anything applied to, I want it to just be natural. And yeah, if you're finding these smaller shops, that's, yeah, Craigslist or Etsy or, there's so many places out there now, and they're usually really willing to work with you. And if they are smaller and they are kind of a little bit more conscious about things, they're usually really excited to get these kind of different projects. So it gives them, work and gives them something to do too, which is a great thing to focus on right now. Also, just because, like supporting small businesses, during this kind of crazy time. So
Yeah.
yeah, no, I love that idea.
Yeah, absolutely. And then the last thing I want to talk about, which is probably one of my favorite, actually, it is my favorite element of interior design, is creating a sacred space in your home.
Hmm.
And that word sacred has different meaning to different people. But what I mean by a sacred space is a space that is it's like your personal hug, right?
Hmm.
So no matter whether you have children, or you share a house with roommates, or at you're 20 years old or you're 80 years old, I think that it's incredibly important, even if you live in a tiny apartment, to create a small place, if you can't have a whole room for it, a small area that's just your sacred space. And
Hmm.
for me, I use my sacred space, I read in it, I meditate in it, I journal in my sacred space. And that, I think, is so critically important for our mental and emotional well-being. And it gives us a space in the house to go and detox our mind and our emotions throughout the day, which has a radical effect on our overall health and well-being. So I'd love to hear your thoughts on creating sacred space in homes, like a meditation area, for example.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, again, and so I'm in Chicago, and so a lot of, my clients are in smaller apartments and they don't have like a full room to dedicate to, this sort of thing. I mean, in a perfect world, we'd all have like, a sauna and a meditation room and all kinds of things in our in our home. But so I think, getting something, I love the idea of like a floor pillow, because I feel like when it kind of helps, the whole, idea of grounding, even if you're not outside, just kind of, having that support of, being on the ground, I think is great. Even if it's just grabbing a pillow off your couch, you don't have to have some fancy, meditation floor pillow. Um, but yeah, so I like to make sure there's something where you can sit on the ground. And then I love to bring in like a diffuser with essential oils. And then I have a Himalayan salt lamp, which I love because there's so many benefits to that. And then I usually will have something where I can, if I want to play music, whether it's on my phone with a speaker or whatever. And then, I also like to sometimes do like guided meditations, with an app or something. Sometimes I just do, my journaling. But I feel like it's important to, dedicate certain times to, coming to this space, like you said. I mean, in the morning personally, like I'll do like my gratitude journaling and things. And then at the end of the day, I'll do more of like kind of like a brain dump and, things that are bothering me or things that are kind of weighing on my mind, and just get all of that down on paper. And I try to do that all in, the same space. And again, this is probably one of the easiest things you can do because you really don't need much to create. Obviously, if you have more resources or space or money, then you can, load it up with all kinds of things, bring your crystals in and, whatever. But I think it's one of the easiest and most, inexpensive spaces that you can create for yourself that just has, so many benefits.
Yep, I love it. And just like you're saying, it can be as simple as throwing a pillow on the floor in a corner and just clearing
Mm-hmm.
stuff away so that you have
Mm-hmm.
that space. Um, a lot of times when you have small young children, a sacred space can literally be you carry a pillow into your bathroom, put it on the floor, close the door so that you just have 5 minutes of
Mm-hmm.
sacred space, right?
Yeah.
And then it can be as big as creating a huge meditation room. It again depends on your space availability and your budget and all of that stuff. But one of the things that I like to do is to have things around me that bring me peace. And I think a sacred space, when you look at it, you should feel a sense of calm. Like, okay, I want to go just sit down, and it feels like a relief, like coming home into that
Mm-hmm.
relieving area, right? So, what are some of the things that you like to see in sacred spaces? Obviously, when somebody has a whole room, that can be bigger, but when somebody has like a corner of a room, you said
Mm-hmm.
a pillow, what are some other things that you feel, music, what do you feel is important to also kind of have around you?
Yeah. So I love the idea of vision boards. I'm actually currently working on a free webinar that kind of is physical and kind of mental vision boarding. But I think having a vision board where you can just see kind of your aspirations and where you want to be. And I also think that you should include on there things that you currently have or, are currently involved in, because then I feel like it makes it feel more attainable, when there are things on there that you already are living. I love the idea of including artwork that is comforting and calming, whether it's something that, your aunt painted or a piece of artwork that really just speaks to you. Maybe it's calming. Like I have a picture of, like a beach type of scene, because for me, that's my, happy place, being on the beach. Living in Chicago, it's nice for me to imagine the beach. um, and then I think, family photos are great. I know that, a lot of times people put pictures of their children or, their mother or grandparents or whatever. And I think, yeah, it's just important to bring in items that there's no stress tied to it. There's no, it's just calming. So, and I know some people will bring in, like crystals. Some people will do like incense or something is a really nice thing to do if you have, the space and the resources. Um, and I think, I'm trying to think what else. What else do you have like in your space?
Plants.
Oh yes, plants are always great.
Yeah, plants. And then you can get really creative. Again, your sacred space is about your beliefs, about what feels like self-care to you. So not everybody's a journaler, not everybody meditates in the same way. Some
Mhm.
people have a religious practice that they bring into their sacred space, others don't. It's really about creating that creative space that feels like self-care to you. So
Mhm.
that's what I would say. I mean, in my sacred space, I have an altar, which is, I know that word altar can be a little unsettling for people who are of different types of religions. An altar has nothing to do with a specific religion. Essentially, I'm going to replace the word altar altar with like a counter or an
Yeah.
area where you
Surface.
literally
Yeah.
are just putting visual representations of things that make you feel love, make you feel joy or safety, or are just of significance to you. So I'm actually looking over at mine right now, and I have a picture of a lovely kitty that was in our family who passed on. I have a picture of my husband and I have some crystals. I have some artwork. And I have a little elephant that reminds me of my father because he loves elephants, right? So it's about the things that make you feel connected to the most important elements of your life, I think,
Hmm.
and of your heart.
Yeah. No, I love that.
Awesome. Well, do you have any parting words that we didn't, anything we didn't cover that you feel is important?
Do you have like maybe two options for people in terms of like detoxing? So let's say they're they're starting to replace all of these things and they want to do some kind of like, aside from, let's say, the lymphatic massage and the dry brushing, is there any other, or are there any other like detox options that people can do kind of while they're home now with maybe limited resources? And
Absolutely. Yes, absolutely. Number one, well, this kind of go, this is like along the lines of when we were talking about how people will spend a ton of money on an air purifier, but then they won't open the windows. This is like that simple. So the most beneficial thing that you can do to, move those toxins out of your body is to drink more water. Drink more water. I try to drink a minimum of half of my body weight in ounces a day, and a maximum of, typically 1 ounce for my body weight. It's important that you figure out what is the right amount for your body. And you do that by experimenting, and by trying to just start wherever you are and increase a little bit. Because if you are somebody who drinks, 5 glasses of water a day and you try to move immediately to drinking 3/4 of a gallon, it's going to be overwhelming. It's actually going to put some strain on your system. So, try to increase a little bit every day or every other day, and just move towards. I'm a big fan of balance, and I'm a big fan of moving towards what we want to create.
yeah,
So
don't just like drastically, tomorrow every like empty your entire house to the road and then you start from
yeah,
scratch. I mean, it'd be great if we could all do that, but unfortunately that's just not realistic. So
yeah, exactly. And you can definitely, squeeze a little bit of lemon into your water. That's great. You can also
that's my favorite. Mhm.
brew some home teas with dandelion. That's a wonderful one. You can actually get dandelion tea now. So that's
Yeah,
something.
I have mine. I think maybe Trad Medicinals, I think, is where mine is from. But yeah, I have like dandelion root tea, and I'll usually like go back and forth between that and like lemon balm and like raspberry leaf. And yeah, I think that's another thing where like, people don't think about like organic teas, and it's like God only knows what's going into them. So, you know, um, but yeah, no, I love doing tea, and lemon water is like what I'm living on essentially now. So
Well, there are definitely some supplements that I think are very helpful in detoxing and helping to bind and then expel all of the different heavy metals and toxins out of the body. One is really about limiting things first. I say if you're going to do a cleanse or a detox for the physical body, that don't forget the rest of your body too. So your mind creates a lot of toxins, your emotions creates a lot of toxins. So if you're going to do a detox, and this is a great time for it, do a whole
yeah,
person detox, mind,
yeah,
body, heart, and spirit.
yeah,
And then also, in addition to drinking water, you want to start limiting the toxins that you're putting in. It doesn't mean you have to go on this radical restrictive diet. Again, I'm not a big fan of radical and restrictive unless you have a severe health condition. If you're, going through cancer, or, have recently had a heart attack or something of that nature, you need a much more intense intervention. But I'm talking about day-to-day life. We have toxic buildup. We want to cleanse. Great. Let's do that. Let's address that in a balanced way. So first thing, you want to start reducing things that are causing toxic buildup to you and stressing your system. And that's really reducing dairy, because it does produce mucus in the body. When you have additional mucus, the particles through your waste are getting stuck in that mucus and not as easily able to eliminate, right?
mhm,
So reducing dairy, reducing things that cause stress, like preservatives, processed foods, large amounts of caffeine or alcohol, and refined sugar. Huge one. So it's like reducing those, starting to, eat a lot of fresh fruits and vegetables that you wash thoroughly, to help the body to do its own thing first, right? Before we throw a bunch of things on the body, I like to first help the body to optimize itself, because our bodies are these amazing things. And when they're working optimally, we're able to process and expel, smaller amounts of heavy metals that we're exposed to and things of that nature. It's when our bodies are taxed and the functionality decreases that then it's not able to do its job, and we have to help it by supplementing. So, the first go-to supplement is always water. And then after that, I love the good old yogi cleanse that I learned about 15 years ago, which is simply bentonite clay, psyllium husk, and activated charcoal is one that I add into that as well. And then there's a wonderful detox supplement that I love by Naputics Naturals. And I'll throw up the link for that. But again, start first removing the toxic things that are going into the body, because otherwise it's putting in, taking out, putting in, taking out. So that's like the best thing to do, is start on reducing and limiting the toxins you're exposed to and what you eat and what's around you, and then begin to shift towards, doing an intentional cleanse. Yeah.
Yeah,
So that's,
awesome.
that's
Yeah.
my take on that.
Yeah,
Well,
no, I love that. I feel like now is, I mean, it's the perfect time to detox,
yeah,
and like you said, in all areas. I mean, well, not everyone, most of us are at home. But the people who aren't at home, I feel like even more, that, whether they're going to work and then coming home, they need a detox as well. So I feel like now is just the perfect time, to develop these practices that we've all been putting off. And like for me, for instance, like meditation, I've done meditation, I guess not like officially, I've kind of, here and there done meditation, and I'm using this time to really, hone in on my meditation practice and develop like, a purposeful and, um, just a good set routine for that. So, and, developing, like I already kind of developed a morning and evening routine, but I feel like just, this is just the perfect time to kind of do all of these things that we've been putting off because we said we didn't have enough time. And I feel like, just with all the environmental stuff and, health related things, I feel like now is the time.
yeah, I completely agree. And, it takes a while for our brain to build a new neural pathway to a new behavior or pattern or habit. It typically takes about, 21 days to a month to develop a new neural pathway to a new behavior or pattern. So I think that we have a lot of opportunity to up level our lives and to make changes right now
Mhm.
that we wouldn't necessarily have the time or the capacity or the space to do. Or like you were saying, things that we may have been, putting off doing.
Mhm.
So now is really the time to dive in and create these habits and these patterns. And when it comes to meditation, I think people can get very intimidated and feel overwhelmed, like, oh, I could never sit still for 30 minutes and meditate. Well, you don't have to. You can start where you are, and again, take little steps forward. So I think that it's powerful to even start, if you have a hard time sitting still or focusing, start with a 1 minute breathing exercise where you just sit and focus on your breath for 1 minute, and then you can increase that to a few minutes, and then you can, shift into adopting some aspects of different meditation practices. Go online and research all different types of meditation practices and how to, and then take what you want and add that into your meditation practice. It can look however you want it to look. So so if anybody out there is thinking you have to sit still and meditate for 30 minutes or an hour to get the benefits, that's definitely not true. So yeah.
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 Awesome. Well, this was really great. I'm glad we're able to kind of blend our worlds and,
Yeah.
create a resource for people and, for ourselves that, people can kind of refer back to kind of help them make some, improvements and healthier choices towards a non-toxic life.
Yeah, I completely agree. It's been really fun. And thank you so much for jumping on and having this conversation with me
Yeah,
today. Thank you.
definitely.
All right.
Thank you.